Yeah, g'day and welcome back. Last week I pointed out there might be a crack here. However, Anton took a look at it and pointed out that it does kind of look a bit like just a tooling mark where somebody went in and put a little chamfer on those edges and just slipped off with a tool down this way. May well be. I think I'll call it that because I would feel better about it. One of the questions last week was Tom asking how flat this is. So let's take a look at it, shall we? Must say I'm curious as well. I normally use a rubber roller to roll out the Prussian blue, but I think one of my kids borrowed it for some school project and didn't return it. Track that down later. Now I would expect something like this, which is only supported in the middle, to bow over the last 45 years. So as you see, it only wants to pivot on the end. So that's kind of what you'd expect to see, really. Yeah, hollow. Let's look at the other end. I certainly won't re-scrape it based on measurements off this plate. It's simply too small. I don't really know anything about these motors other than that they were made in Mexico. There's this little tag on the side of them. Let's take a look at it. Now it looks like these motors were made by the Control Systems Research Division of Contraves Goetz Corporation. Now the model number is an SM707. Yeah, I searched for that on the internet, couldn't find it. Basically find nothing about them. So about the only information I have on these motors or drivers would be that they would appear to take a 60 volt DC input. Yeah, I'm really not that interested in chasing much more down about these. Those three-phase synchro resolvers don't appear to have many options for driving them these days or for reading them out. So I'd have to replace the resolvers with something more modern, the drivers with something more modern, use a big 60 volt DC power supply, and really that whole package I'd rather just replace it with something more modern which is well documented. Really good discussion in the comment section last week about how jewelers managed to control the swarf of all their precious metals. Actually kind of reminded me of one of the urban legends of the aviation industry. Now, looks like a bit broke off that seal there. Some sort of plastic, I think it's all just breaking up. So anyway, I don't know if this is true, but you know, I'm not going to let the truth get in the way of a good story, am I? Back around the end of World War II, Rolls-Royce had developed the first of the nickel cobalt-based superalloys. I think it was called like Mnemonic 90 or something like that, used for making the turbine discs of some of those early gas turbine engines. Anyway, they got visited by a Soviet delegation sometime around the end of the war, and the Rolls-Royce people were kind of surprised that this sort of high-ranking delegation from the Soviet Union was so interested in visiting the machine shop. Yeah, well, it turned out years later they found out that the Soviet delegation had put adhesives on the bottom of their shoes in the gaps and stuff and were walking around trying to pick up some swarf of Mnemonic 90, which they then of course analysed and reverse engineered. Smells like an old car engine. Still is very, very resistant to being turned. This is just cold rolled steel, which has not even been surfaced. Man, what is this coming to? When Schaublin puts something on their lathe which is not even ground, I mean, what is the world coming to? Okay, so it does look to be a right-hand thread. What am I going to work against? It would have been nice if they'd put an Allen wrenching hex into the end here, but I don't think they did. Nope. So I guess I'm going to have to use a screwdriver to jam the pulley. And see if that works. Not so far, no. This is where you'd want a rigging pin hole. If they just put a hole straight through and into that pulley, you'd put a pin straight in, lock the pulley, undo the nut. How easy would that be, huh? Well, day 4 of the America's Cup got cancelled today due to light winds, which I think's better, huh? Watching those boats fall off the foil and then go into displacement mode is kind of not really what anyone's looking for there, is it? Yeah, that really is a piece of junk, huh? What's the use of an unhardened Allen key? Nice spiral twist on it now. Well, they can go out. Oh good, I knew I had a decent one. Just had to go looking for it. Oh, a bit of corrosion in that joint. This should just pull the bearing out of the far side, I'd say. Here's the screw I missed, up underneath. There it goes.
The following day.
Now this might sound strange coming from somebody who spent like 40 episodes converting a mini lathe to CNC. This here is the reason why you shouldn't retrofit manual machines. If you look at this, a CNC lathe like this has enough space in the cross slide to actually fit a ball screw. This is 35 millimeters deep, so 1 3/8 inches by 32 millimeters, which is 1 1/4 or so. Whenever you do a conversion of a manual machine, you'll find that this space just isn't there. Most manual machines have got very skinny little bronze nuts, just don't have the space to do a proper ball screw conversion. I'm surprised this isn't a real corroded mess, because this is an aluminium housing and it was sitting right up against that cast iron housing. It's also bolted to the cast iron here at the back. For a machine which was designed with coolant in mind, if they'd put a water-based coolant in here, probably would quickly turn into a corroded mess. Well, this is a bit disappointing. I was kind of hoping to find a wrenching flat on this side so that I could put a spanner or something on here to then loosen off this nut, but they didn't give us a wrenching flat. Not good. Schaublin, you get minus points for that. Now, since there's no wrenching flat on this end, nor on this part, I'm guessing there may be one on the front side of the pulley, between the pulley and the bearings. But this is pretty tight. It does turn. It feels like it bridges one of the bearings. I don't want to damage anything, so I think I need to make up some sort of a puller to pull this off. And if I'm lucky, let's hope there's a wrenching flat there so I can finally take that nut off. Till I come up with a good solution for a puller, let's move on with the saddle. First up, I'm going to remove the waste scrapers. I'm kind of guessing that this block here is the hull sensor for the ZXC homing switch. I think this is pretty clever. On a CNC lathe, the apron doesn't do much. Basically just carries the ball nut. I think it's cool the way Schaublin have integrated the tapered gib strip, but also how they're using the apron as the oil tank with an integrated oil pump. So those two screws look like they mount the ball nut. I'll just loosen off the gib strip. Now, as people gave me heaps last week about my rusty piece of water pipe that I was using to add a bit of force to the Allen key, this week I've got galvanized water pipe. Okay, from the length that looks about right for mounting the ball nut. Plenty of gunge on there, but no scoring, no obvious excessive wear. Seems okay.
2 days later.
Well, I hope everybody watched America's Cup Day 6, Race 9. That was fantastic, huh? That's exactly what we watch sport for. Totally gripping. Anyone could have won, but the right person won in the end, huh? You know, it's one thing to have such amazing racing, but in the press conference for Day 6, the official America's Cup press conference, Glenn Ashby gave us one of those pieces of athletic poetry, which was just sheer brilliance. You know, when he said...
Yeah, look, obviously the start's one part of the race, but, you know, the finish is the other part. So there's a whole big bit in the middle.
I mean, this is the sort of sheer genius which makes athletes the philosopher poets of our time. It's slowly coming down. It looks like it's got these two are alignment pins. So it's got dowels keeping it well aligned. Just got to slowly work it off. Probably get in there now and give it a light levering. Still a bit of gunge in there, so I'll just let that drain for a bit.
2 hours later.
Another O-ring I'm going to need here. Looks like the oil down on the bottom of this is pretty gunged up. Whole thing's definitely going to need a good clean out. It's pretty gross. Put a bit of mineral spirits into this and let it soak. Looks like this gunge is going to dissolve quite easily. That's good. whatever paint they use seems to be falling apart. So I'll have to get all of that out as well. We can check and see if the pump works. Nope, must all be gummed up. There's nothing happening there. There's the ball nut carrier, covered in plenty of Swarf. Well, this rotates smoothly, but the screw sure doesn't. Even with the saddle removed, I can't even turn this ball screw. I did put a C-spanner on here. It's still locked, and yet the nut comes loose before anything moves, so that's a bit worrying. So these Hall sensors need to come off. Wow, look at this. There's a bit of oil still under there, and it's not level, so the saddle just quietly creeps along that slope because of the thick whey oil underneath it. Alright, that's good news. So this here's that rear sliding gib strip. Oh, okay, that's the actual adjustable gib. Okay, I dropped it all as one piece. That comes apart separately. I guess that's logical. Didn't really think that through, did I? Now as the system wears, this gib strip's going to get pushed further and further this way until it runs out of travel. So as you can see, I'm not even halfway through the allowable travel at the stage, so that's good. Well, the America's Cup's now over, and I guess that last race turned out to be a bit of a victory lap for New Zealand, but yeah, awesome challenge. I think Luna Rossa did a hell of a job. Italy can be proud of them. In the post-race press conference, Team New Zealand once again rolled out its poet-philosopher.
Yeah, look, I think, the future is something that the future has to worry about.
God, I love this guy. I talked in one of the previous videos about this kind of crosshatch pattern you see on the ground surfaces. I wasn't sure whether it was maybe fly cut, but I've had some feedback by one of the guys in Germany who actually visited Schaublin with his work, and he said that basically all of their stuff is blanchette ground. They do look a bit like fly cutting, but much closer, much finer. I'm quite glad I've taken this all apart, to be honest. Get all of this gunge out of all the nooks and crannies. Yeah, and I guess now that the America's Cup's over, it's time to start looking forward to the start of the MotoGP season. Huh? This gib is for lathe number 82, and I've seen that 82, here it is, there's an 82 on here as well, and the bed has the number 282, so I guess that's quite consistent. You find that all over the place. With everything disconnected, I can now move the saddle, and I must say, it feels like butter in the pan. Oh yeah. Now there's no guiding surface now, so I can kind of move around, but something I'm also very happy about is the fact that there's a lot of oil under here. no rust, no corrosion. There is a wee bit of this discoloration, but that was to be expected. It's not wear, they can't feel anything. It's so stuck down, it's probably easiest just to push it off the end. Yeah, that's really all just cosmetic, just a surface coloration. Well, here's the underside of the saddle. Once again, the guideways don't seem to have any galling or scratching to them, which is good. You can still see most of the grinding marks on there. Maybe a little bit less towards the end, which is what you'd expect. Ah, look, there's an O-ring here. This is where the oil tank mounts. So this is the gunge on the top of the oil tank, effectively. Yeah, whatever it is that's affecting the iron, it definitely makes a good blackening effect. I wonder if that's sulfur in the cutting oil causing like an iron sulfide or something. I think that also could be black. Well, now that saddle's off, I'm kind of running out of excuses, and soon I'm going to have to actually move this thing. Well, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you again next week.